For me, these Spanish playing cards hold a very special place in my heart because they remind me of a time when I was a kid. You see, when I was smaller, my parents, my dad, my mom, my grandfather, my grandmother, and myself, during the weekends, we used to play with these cards. We used to play the game that was called Briscas. That was the name of the game. And at the time, I didn't know anything about magic. I didn't know anything about sleight of hand. I didn't know anything about that. And we used to play, all four of us. And it just reminds me of those times. Whenever I see these cards, they remind me of those times. My father, for example, he used to love the coins. This was his favorite suit. My father said that it reminded him of money, of currency. And that's why he liked the coins. My mother was a little bit different. My mother has always been a person very fond of nature, very fond of travel, very fond of the nomadic gypsy people. And she used to like the clubs because the clubs reminded her precisely of that, of nature. It's a tree with some leaves around it. And she used to like the clubs very much because it reminded her of that. However, my grandfather, was quite different. My grandfather, he used to like the cups or the chalice. My grandfather was a very religious man, and he used to have a lot of affinity for Christianity, for God, and all of that. And this used to remind him about that, about the chalice, the cup that caught Jesus' blood during the crucifixion. And that's why he liked the cups a lot, my grandfather. Me, on the other hand, I've always been very attracted to soldiers, warriors, and all that kind of stuff, and ancient warriors and soldiers, and that's why I like the swords a lot. And that's how the four major cards always used to remind me about different people in my family, whether it be my father, my mother, my grandfather, or even myself. Now, the object of the game is actually quite simple. Each player gets dealt 3 cards, and depending on what is the card which has been chosen at random to be the killer card or the strong suit, the person who gets those cards of those suits in their hand will beat the card that the opponent has actually thrown. And you do that until you reach a specific number. You see the cards have numbers, and those numbers get added up, and as long as you get to a certain amount of number, the first person who gets to that maximum number, that's the person that wins. So for example, if we give the deck a few shuffles and we give the deck a few cuts, the first thing that's going to happen is that we need to determine what is going to be the killer card, or the card that will determine what the suit that has the most power out of all 4 suits will be. Now, normally what we would do is that we would cut, and whatever card we cut to, that will be the card that determines the suit. In this case, we have a sword, so that means that all swords are gonna be the killer suit in the game. So whoever gets swords will always beat whatever card the opponent has thrown. Like I mentioned, everybody gets 3 cards. So I'll give 1 card to my opponent, 1 card to myself. The rest of the deck gets placed on top of the killer card. Now, if we look at my opponent, right now he, doesn't have any killer cards, any cards that have to do with the sword. I, on the other hand, do. I have the ace or the 1, I have the king, and I have the lady with the sword. So it doesn't matter what card he actually throws, I can always take it. So if he throws that coin, I can use this card, take these two. I mean, and then he would get a card, I would get a card, which just so happens to be the horseman. And let's say that he throws this card, and I will use my horseman and I will get him. Okay, so he gets a card, no swords. I get a card. Well, lucky me, got another sword. So again, he throws that one, I can throw this one, and I can take him, and so on and so forth. That's basically the way the game goes. Back then, when we used to play around the house with my family, if I had known then what I know now, I mean, I literally would have been unstoppable. But anyhow, I just wanted to come here for a little while with you guys and share a little bit of myself with you. I know that I don't talk a lot about myself, and I know that most of you don't know anything about myself, but I figured that this would be a good time for me to tell you a little bit about myself, and at the same time show you a beautiful artistic deck of cards that I don't only think it's beautiful because of its features, but it's also a deck that is very close to my memory and very close to better times that we had in the past. Anyway, guys, that is going to be it for today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I publish new content on gambling sleight of hand every single week, and I will catch you next time.